Good evening from New York. Contrary to the popular idiom, some things do not have to be seen to be believed. I have never personally witnessed nuclear fission, but I believe it's in its capacity for power or destruction. I have never personally met Iranian President Ahmadinejad, yet I believe he exists. Nor have I ever met Senator Richard Shelby, who in our fifth story in the countdown has perpetuated the treasonous, unsubstantiated rumor that President Obama is not actually a citizen of the United States. What grounds? Because the Alabama Republican says he has never seen Obama's birth certificate. To be perfectly clear, this is the President of the United States. His name is Barack Obama, by necessity a natural-born citizen of the United States. This is Barack Obama's birth certificate. Date of birth, August 4, 1961. Location of birth, Honolulu, Hawaii. The Obama campaign having released that birth certificate last June. The radical right-wing website WorldNet Daily having then written a piece attesting to its authenticity. In December, the U.S. Supreme Court dismissed without comment a lawsuit seeking to bar Obama from the presidency due to questions over his citizenship. The Chief Justice of the United States then administering the oath of office to Mr. Obama, not once, but you'll remember, twice. And as we mentioned, all that apparently not good enough for Senator Shelby, who over the weekend, in response to a question about that rumor that Obama was not a United States citizen, said, quote, well, his father was Kenyan and they said he was born in Hawaii, but I haven't seen any birth certificate. You have to be born in America to be president. A spokesman for Senator Shelby attempting to put the toothpaste back into the tube, claiming that the senator's remarks were merely a throwaway line, calling the newspaper report that published them incomplete and a distortion of his comments. The Cullman Times, which reported this story, standing by its reporting as complete and accurate. Remarkably, President Obama is still inviting Republicans to the White House. This morning, addressing members of the National Governors Association, governors like Bobby Jindal of Louisiana, who has already said he will not accept $100 million in unemployment insurance funding from the stimulus. Jennifer Granholm of Michigan and Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger of California, among those asking, well, can they have it instead? Governors like Mark Sanford of South Carolina still in the threatening stages of not accepting STEM money. This morning on C-SPAN, the governor telling the unemployed South Carolina man who called into the network that only his prayers would be with him. President Obama saying this morning, it is time for these politics to stop.
But I just want us to not lose perspective of the fact that most of the things that have been the topic of argument over the last several days amount to a fraction of the overall stimulus package. I just want to make sure that we're having an honest debate and presenting to the American people a fulsome accounting of what is going on in this program. And so if we agree on 90% of the stuff, and we're spending all our time on television arguing about 1, 2, 3% of the spending in this thing, and somehow it's being characterized in broad brush as wasteful spending, that starts sounding more like politics. And that's what, right now, we don't have time to do. There's going to be ample time for campaigns down the road. Right now, we've got to make sure that we're standing up for the American people.
Time now to call on our own political analyst, Richard Wolff. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, Keith.
Senator Shelby's office called this report distortion. Let me quote him in full again and then what they're saying tonight. Well, his father was Kenyan and they said he was born in Hawaii, but I haven't seen any birth certificate. You have to be born in America to be president. The office responded tonight. The Cullman Times article contains an incomplete account and therefore a distortion of Senator Shelby's comments regarding President Obama's citizenship. At the town hall meeting in Cullman, Senator Shelby laid out the constitutional qualifications of the presidency and said that while he hasn't personally seen the president's birth certificate, he is confident the matter has been thoroughly examined. Where do we find the confidence in that quote that we have from him in the Cullman newspaper?
Well, let me do it like this. There are a number of constitutional lawyers who are still debating whether or not you need to be sane or even conscious to be a United States senator. Now, I personally have not seen the medical records of Senator Shelby, but I'm sure they have been thoroughly examined by medically trained professionals who can testify to his sanity. As far as I know, he is sane. Look, the truth is that when you see these kinds of weasel words coming from the office of an elected official, you know they've got something to hide.
But, and I might add, I have a list in my hand of 208 senators who do not pass the Senator Consciousness Test. The idea that these are just totally off the wall, I mean, when Alan Keyes said what he said last week, who you might say is a few representatives short of a quorum, that's one thing, but a sitting senator like Richard Shelby, is there not enough going on in the country? Is politics this out of hand? What's the problem here?
Well, Senator Shelby isn't just a sitting senator. He's the senior Republican on the Senate Banking Committee. In fact, he ran the Banking Committee through most of the Bush era. So I am sure he examined the balance sheets of the financial institutions of this country with as much exactitude as he's looking at the birthing status of the President of the United States, which may account for why we're in such a big mess right now. He is a senior figure, in fact, in the Republican Party. And I think what he's doing here is shameful and is just as weasel as the explanation that came out of his office. It's not just what he said as reported by the Cullman Times. It's the official story afterwards. They're both just as bad as each other.
The goal here, and we've heard this from those much further on the right and further out of office than Senator Shelby, but the goal can't be, anybody can't be serious about delegitimizing the Obama presidency. Is it just to lend a 2% doubt here, to soften him up? What's the idea behind this strategically?
Well, I've seen this play out several times on the campaign last year, and obviously it was pretty potent then with those Muslim rumors that were out there with such a great spread across the nation, and it took such effort from the Obama campaign to try and fend them off. What happens in these situations is that an official gets asked a question, and they know it's wrong, but they're pandering. They don't want to engage in some real straight talk and tell them that that's not true, so they're currying favor with people who are frankly ignorant, and what they're also doing is engaging in some fear-mongering and scaremongering. That has the effect of delegitimizing an elected official like the president. It was done to the Clintons, and it was done through the campaign to then Senator Obama. He won, in spite of all of that, with a substantial majority. What
would the reaction have been if somebody had come in and said, well, you know what, I don't believe George Bush was actually born in this country. He should be removed as president for that reason? What would the reaction have been by the Republicans?
Well, remember, this is a time of war, and, you know, I could imagine Zell Miller accusing someone of treason and asking for a duel. I mean, this is a nonsensical situation. For all the outrage that's out there, it is rightly placed on the left of the commentariat, because this is deeply damaging if it is unchecked, and that's why it's so important that people go out there and say flatly, it's untrue, go look at the birth certificate, it's on the website, there's this thing called Google. It's pretty useful.
By the way, if it was a time of war in 2003, it's also a time of war in 2009. MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff. As always, Richard, great thanks.
Thank you, Keith.